My food story comes from where I'm from, of course, right? It comes from my mom. Being Jewish, you have to want everyone to eat. Whether we're mourning or we're celebrating things, Jewish people want everyone to eat. And we're always worried we don't have enough food. Southern people, they believe in very large portions. And my mom is actually a Jew from the South. She's from Alabama. It's a very special breed of Judaism. So being Jewish and being Southern, it's almost a deadly combination. When I was a little kid, one of our family stories is I was about 5 years old, and she said the thing that almost every parent has said. She said, "Finish the food on your plate." And I stood up on my chair and I lifted up my shirt and I said, "I can't." I said, "My belly is full. It doesn't want to eat any more food." And this was one of those moments that hopefully all parents have had, where my mom said kind of a light bulb went off in her head, and it was enlightening. Because I think being a parent can be very enlightening. And it became this family story. She would always say to me, "Alan, you're so good at knowing when you're full." Of course, I grew out of that, as did most of us. We grow out of this. Little kids actually have a good sense of their internal satiety, and we take it away from them. They develop out of it. So this is my family. This is my very imperfect family. And I'm giving this talk because we are totally imperfect. I have people who can attest to that. And I'm giving it because I do love talking about parenting. And I'm very interested in how to be a better parent. I'm interested in how to be the best parent I can be. It's something that just fascinates me all the time. These 9 classes are going to be about understanding how kids are not mini adults. It's going to be about thinking about resilience, mindfulness. It's going to be about thinking about well-being for all of us. We're going to focus on the why and the how. We're going to talk about willpower. We're going to talk about external eating and emotional eating. 3 whys. Now, by the way, there are many other reasons why people eat, but these are the ones we're going to focus on tonight. I'm a child psychiatrist. I work with patients all the time, and my patients will tell me that they will do anything for their kids. I will do anything for my kids. Will you give up a kidney? No problem. 2 kidneys. You'll have to go on dialysis. Sure, easy. Will you change your diet? Absolutely not. Why else do people eat? For fun. We eat for fun a lot. Comfort. That's a really great one. We're going to talk about that with emotional eating. Anything else? Hunger. Right? That's the one actually that comes to mind at the beginning. It's survival. We originally ate for survival. So kids are not mini adults. They're not eating just for survival. They're eating for growth. And Dr. Neil Martin, who wrote The Neuropsychology of Smell and Taste, a light read for the summer, he talks about this. So there's some really interesting differences in the way kids taste food. And it has to do with the way their smell and taste are developing. So for instance, between the ages of 6 months and 2 years, kids actually have a heightened sense of taste for sweets and for salt. We found that there's an early period between about 10 and 12 months. If you give them too much sugar, it actually creates a propensity for sugar later on in life. But odors, the nose is actually the only place where we have exposed nerves in our body. They're exposed to the outside. Our sense of smell, it goes straight to memory. There's an interesting thing as well. There's something called food neophobia. Between the ages of 2 and 3, there's a very natural stage when kids will not want to try new foods. For our children, it's continuing longer. It's actually, for certain children, it goes until about 9 years, when kids will be very cautious about trying new foods. Willpower is the conflict that is going on when you want to do something, when you should be doing something, and what you are actually planning on doing. Kids have very little willpower. These frontal areas of the brain don't finish growing until we're 26. So they're operating on much less, but we ask a lot of kids. We send them to preschool, school. They're supposed to think, they're supposed to learn, they're supposed to sit still, they're supposed to follow directions. None of this may be natural for kids. And so the only thing that we as parents can do to help our kids have the most willpower they can is actually to help feed them really well. To help feed them the things that's going to help their willpower. There are two major things that help replenish your willpower when you're a kid: sleep and eating. First thing, when you have a grumpy kid, the first thing you should be thinking is sleep, eating, before anything else, because they can't control that. We regulate most of it for them. So willpower, wonderfully, is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it comes. Of all the parenting advice you've gotten, the home-cooked meal, as long as your kids eat at home with your family, they'll turn out okay. So rewarding kids or punishing kids with food is a way of teaching emotional eating. You're actually using Pavlov's classical conditioning when you're doing that. We eat to feel better. It literally changes the feeling in our body. It's a psychology. Most of us tend to eat the thing that we're used to eating when we were kids. We go back to whatever it was. Food is supposed to stay away from the emotional sphere. We'll start with restrictive eating. Restrictive eating is when you're holding certain foods back. Now, if you have no restrictive eating, we know kids will only want to eat ice cream, and that's actually been shown. It's very much like permissive parenting. If you have too much restriction, it creates an enormous amount of anticipation. Now, anticipation is one of the best ways to make kids want something more. So you need some amount of restriction, but not too much restriction. That's the invisible line. Covert restriction is when you're secretly restricting, but your kids don't know about it. The best way to do this is in the home. You're not supposed to eat together if your family doesn't get along. You get no benefit from eating together if there's an enormous amount of conflict. Actually, it's the opposite. It's like punishment. What the dinner table really is it's a thermometer. The dinner table is your opportunity to check in with the family as a whole and say, how are we doing? How do things get along? Breakfast was just as important as dinner. It has the same weight. But there is a minimum number. And that number, it's a very exciting moment, is 3 to 5. Really, it's the most unexciting numbers. But the idea, when they've done a meta-analysis, when they've studied all the studies of dinners and breakfasts, if you're having at least 3 to 5 meals with your kids in the week, that seems to get you some of the benefit. When they've studied families, the more meals you have in the week, it just seems to be more benefit, as long as you're getting along. What the meal is really about is it's about a series of modeling moments. It's about showing kids how to prepare food. It's about showing kids how to eat at the table. It's about showing manners. And it's about showing people how to clean up. It's all of those things. It's not about necessarily the conversation alone. And it's certainly not about what the food is. It's about the modeling. It's basically like you're on stage. And that's another big thing. How do you prep kids for a meal? And you can't give TV after a meal for most kids, because TV after the meal is what you call a behavioral activator. And eating quickly is actually one of the connections we have to obesity. We don't want to encourage eating quickly. Actually, my older daughter is a slower eater than I am. And we've created a little game to see who can eat the slowest. When they look at people with obesity, they've found they have bigger bites. They take many bites very quickly, and they're done very quickly. And so we're going to try to teach kids how to be mindful eaters. How do you develop mindful eating? Eat it. Go on, eat it. If any of you are allergic to strawberries, please don't do this. Say, eat the strawberry. It's a strawberry, right? Now we're going to go on to the second strawberry. This is called mindful eating. Let's take, I think the strawberry, oh wait, don't eat the strawberry yet. This strawberry we're going to do something a little differently with. First, feel the strawberry. Who can tell me what a strawberry feels like? Someone. What? Bumpy. Anything else? Wet. It's wet.
Cold.
Cold. Hard. Rubbery. Let's smell the strawberry. What do you smell? How would you describe that? Strawberry-like. It's a beautiful fruit. I think it's really gorgeous. Now you guys get to do it. I'm going to ask you to bite in, but I don't want you to swallow yet. I want you to just feel it in your mouth. So in your mouth, feeling it, you can talk with food in your mouth right now. How does it feel? One mindful meal a day. One meal where you really take your time and you look at the ingredients. What I would offer you is that with your kids, you could look at one piece of the meal every day in a mindful way. You get to model everything about being a mindful eater. At the end of the meal, going, I'm really full now. I feel that I'm full. Stopping then. Showing them that they don't have to finish all the food on their plate. Kids like to play. Kids are players. And so you have to think, how am I going to make the meal playful for them? One of the ways I do it is I play a game where I say, if your name begins with M, take a bite. What else do I do? We do something called best, best, worst. Now this is doing two things. First, it's kind of playful. We talk about the two best things that happen in your day and the worst thing. And we compete to see who will go first. And so best, best, worst, you say the two best things and the worst thing. The worst thing doesn't have evidence in terms of we know there's a lot of evidence in talking about gratitude and increasing gratitude in our kids. Gratitude being one of the most pro-social emotions we have, the thing that connects us. Think about how you feel when you're grateful to someone else. What won't you do for them? What we know is that the dinner table is probably one of the best ways to teach transgenerational resilience. Families often keep their resilience stories secret, I find. But actually, those are the best stories to tell. We lost our fortune. Everything went wrong. We're okay now. Telling those stories is actually an amazing way of developing resilience at the table. So every day when we do best, best, worst, I always have a worst. So how do you introduce new foods? What evidence do we have about introducing foods? The best way we know to introduce new foods to kid is to take one food and repeat it about 10 times on a semi-frequent basis. You do 3 things that the kid can do well, and then 1 thing that's going to be a challenge. So we might give my daughters the pasta that the beige pasta that they like, and my kids like broccoli, and my kids can eat chicken, and then we might introduce some new food. And then you have to do it on a semi-frequent basis. And that's how you get to introduce a new food. Then if you can just take one thing and try it out for the next 3 weeks, you will appreciate it. As you can all see, I really spend some time talking about kids, but I'm really talking about you. This is geared towards adults, because that's how real change occurs in families. It has to come from the parent. If any tricks existed, you would Google them. It would actually be on the front page of the New York Times if we actually had a trick to parenting, because there aren't any. Raising your child is a wonderful opportunity to raise up yourself. If we're really going to be the best kind of parent we're going to be the best kind of people we're going to be. That's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.